Fox News reporter Jacqui Heinrich calls out Karine Jean-Pierre regarding the Biden administration's manipulation of data. MSNBC interviews a bunch of Trump supporters regarding the January 6th events, and it does not go as planned. And we have Ted Cruz on The View and absolutely destroys them all. All of that and more here on The Bald Brad Show. Welcome to The Bald Brad Show. It is Tuesday, October 25th, and as always, I couldn't be happier than to kick these mornings off right, doing The Bald Brad Show and hanging out with all of you, my friends and true American patriots, where we come together as a community of conservatives and Republicans, go over the stories of the day, and bring all the news and information you need to know about. So if you want to join us here at The Bald Brad Show and you haven't done so, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. If you're over at Rumble, hit the plus and give us a comment down below. And if you're listening on any of the podcast airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, heck, folks, you can find us and listen to us anywhere and everywhere. Leave us a lovely 5-star review. Not only would you be supporting a conservative, but most importantly, you'd be supporting getting conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. Show up and support would be greatly appreciated. Hit that like button. The YouTube algorithm absolutely loves it. And double check to make sure that bell notification icon's clicked, because 85% of you are not being notified when we upload or go live, which is Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with Supernatural Saturdays and a sprinkling of politics on Sunday. Be notified by hitting that bell icon, and again, double check to make sure you have that like button clicked. With that being said, our lead story of the day is with Fox News reporter Jacqui Heinrich calling out the White House's manipulation of data and misrepresentation of data, from the jobs numbers to the way they're talking about reducing the deficit by 1.4 or 1.5 trillion. She does a fabulous job in her line of questioning. And just watch how Karine Jean-Pierre answers this one, folks. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Good, Jacqui. Thanks, Karine. Today, the president seemed to be countering some of this GOP messaging on the economy, and he told people that Republicans like to call Democrats big spenders, and people should look at the facts. But the facts don't seem to be exactly how he's painting it on some of these issues. He has claimed repeatedly that the administration reduced the deficit, but if you break it down, spending was high because of the pandemic, those programs expired, and that brought down the deficit, and then that deficit reduction was spent on canceling student loans, and then on the jobs claims that he made. He said that President Trump was the first since Hoover to lose jobs during his administration, but and he claimed that he had created 10 million new jobs, but in reality, those jobs have mostly been added back, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics says only about 514,000 jobs have been newly created. So how are people supposed to take this kind of messaging on their most important issue seriously when some of this feels like smoke and mirrors?
Well, let me tell you what the American people should take very, very seriously. Let me remind you of the Trump tax cut of 2017, $2 trillion that was not paid for.
Just completely forget about the question, you guys. She's going to just make up whatever the hell she heard in her mind and start blaming Trump. Let me tell you what the American people should be worried about that happened 5 years ago, when the question was about your manipulation of data, lady. How you're capitalizing on what took place during COVID-19 and the pandemic to misconstrue the data, misconstrue the information, and make it seem like you've created 10 million jobs, which you haven't. Anybody with half a brain can figure that one out. But let's see how she blames Trump here and dodges the question like typical. I know we're all used to it, but let's go ahead and hear it.
Not paid for. So I want to be very clear about that. And let me also remind the American people of what was happening in January of 2020, January 20th or 21 of 2020, 2021, which was that American businesses, small businesses were shutting down. I just talked about schools. Only 46% of schools were shut down. There was not a real comprehensive COVID response and making sure that people got shots in their arms. And because of the American Rescue Plan, which is something that Republicans refused to work on, refused to vote on, the American Rescue Plan got those schools open, got those small businesses open again, and really made us and put us in a place where the economy turned back on. And
it's remarkable, is it not, folks? I mean, give her credit. It takes skill to say a bunch of nonsense for that long and just continually ramble, completely dodging the question, of which Jacqui Heinrich, again, of Fox News, I know I'm repeating myself, and I know all of you are aware, but clearly this lady isn't, of what's going on with him manipulating the data, saying it's 1.5 trillion, capitalizing on the governmental programs where there's an enormous amount of spending. Now there isn't because they expired. So obviously the spending comes down. And then you're also saying you instituted 10 million and created 10 million new jobs, of which you didn't. And numbers like around 530,000. So it's just, it's really remarkable. I know we do this every week, but it's content and it never ends. Remember, this is the same lady that was asked questions about certain things that took place in the past. And she's like, well, we're not going to focus on the past. We're only going to focus on now. But yeah, she brings up the Trump administration stuff from like 2017, which we're entering 2023. It's rich, you guys. It's rich. But hey, this is the best the Democrats have, folks. Joe Biden.
We saw historic, I mean, don't listen to us. You're giving me data, but there's also data that shows that unemployment is the lowest that it's been in 50 years. It also shows that what we were able to do, even with the strong labor market, that was because of the plan, the economic policies that the president put forth. So he put in the work. And here's the thing, and I'll add more, and I'm happy to hear your next question. Congressional Republicans have been very, very clear on what they want to do. And this is the choice that the president talks about that Americans have to decide on. They have to make. They have said that the first thing that they're going to repeal is the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually lowers costs for American people. They have said that if they are not able to put Medicare and Social Security on the chopping blocks, right, they're going to essentially hold us hostage. If that doesn't happen, they're going to shut down the government.
You want to talk about holding people hostage, lady? Just go to your grocery store, go to the gas pump, just look around you for a little bit, folks, and see who's being taken hostage of, because Joe Biden doesn't want to increase domestic oil production. He doesn't want to work with the Saudis. The Saudis are literally just came out, the article today, about them talking trash and making fun of Joe Biden behind his back and talking about his mental state. If you want to talk about holding people hostage, just look around the United States on what you're doing to the American people. We are way well off under Trump. Yeah, he had some asinine comments to say on Twitter, but I'd take asinine comments on Twitter any day to have my cost of standard of living actually remotely where it's supposed to be. The average American has lost $4,300 under the Biden administration. We're still paying up the wazoo everywhere we go. Hell, lady, you're going to say Republicans are going to take people hostage because they're going to remove and repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, which doesn't actually do anything it says it's going to do. A bunch of hocus pocus.
That does not hurt. That does not help inflation. That makes it worse. That does not help the economy. That makes it worse. And so that is the stark difference.
She's going to tell us what makes the economy worse. She's going to blame Republicans. We're at 8.2% inflation. CPI went up. Joe Biden's still breaking records. Literally, he has exceeded expectations on matters that are only getting worse. The Federal Reserve's like, this is what we're going to predict. The CPI, this is what we're going to predict. Oh, crap, Joe Biden, he actually did worse than what was expected. But they're going to push this stuff. Remember, this is the same administration that said that we had 0% inflation, that inflation was flat, right? They kept changing the narrative on it. Yeah, but we're going to sit there and listen to them about anything in terms of the economy and inflation reduction and holding American hostages. Get out of here.
Here of what we are talking about what congressional Democrats and this president want to do.
So why doesn't he lean more on some of that language than continuing to repeat this we reduce the deficit thing that feels like sort of irrelevant?
No, the reduce the deficit is real. $1.4 trillion. That's what he talked about just last week, and that is historic as well. In 1 year, that's what the president has been able to do. Those are real numbers that matter as we talk about inflation, as we talk about the economy.
It just happened on its own.
No, but it is actually the policies that he has taken that has helped reduce the deficit. Let's not forget Trump 2017 with the $2 trillion that Republicans were very happy to vote on and was not paid for. So there is a difference here in how we approach the economy, how we approach what Americans are going through right now, how we approach dealing with middle-class families that you are not seeing currently. You're not seeing currently from Republicans. I got to move on because we don't have a lot of space.
That you're not currently seeing from Republicans. You have all three branches of government, lady. Why do you keep bringing up Republicans? You don't need us. You run the show. You have been running the show for freaking 2 years now. And she keeps interjecting Republicans and conservatives into it. Oh, Trump this from 2017. Oh, come on, lady. Give me a break here. Mind you, she never said anything of which policies actually helped the economy and what Joe Biden's actually done other than instituting the Inflation Reduction Act, which just actually doesn't remove any sort of inflation. We got that from other Democrats themselves, from the horse's mouth. So she's going to continue to peddle all this nonsense. She's going to continue until the elections say it's Republicans' fault. Republicans are the bad guys. They're not helping us. They're not doing this. They want to hurt you on Medicare. They're going to sit there and hold up the government spending and all this other stuff. All the while, those are real numbers. That matters, Jacqui. That matters. That's a real number, 1.4, 1.5 trillion. It's also manipulation because you're making it seem like the president is doing all these things when in reality, they just expired. The guy hasn't done anything. It just fell off the platform. And all of a sudden now we're not spending this stuff. So you can have Joe Biden go out there and say, okay, we're going to spend $2 trillion. And then the next year, those $2 trillion end, you go like, hey, look we reduced the deficit again. We did it twice. Look at us. Yeah, but you just got done spending an assload of money, causing dramatic inflation, screwing over the American people, but yet saying the Republicans are going to hold the American people hostage if they were to win the midterms. Am I the only one crazy here that's seeing a bunch of nonsense coming from this Biden administration? Because I know I'm not. I know all of you are right there with me. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. Moving into our second story of the day, folks. We have an interview that was conducted by MSNBC, and we got a clip on this one, folks. It's clips galore today. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button once again. Pittsburgh-area Trump voters were interviewed by MSNBC about the events surrounding the now infamous January 6th incident, also called J6. It's not quite clear what the motive of MSNBC was. Maybe the interview was done out of sheer curiosity to see how January 6th has affected the hearts and minds of regular everyday people, or maybe there was a more nefarious purpose. This could have been an excuse to further villainize Trump supporters as ultra MAGA, or whatever the other terms the Biden administration wants to divide us Americans as. Remember, we're extremists and all these other things. And I think mostly it just has to do with keeping the January 6th events relevant, because the midterms are coming up, and that's the only thing the Democrats have going for them. Because what are they going to turn to the economy? I don't think so. What are they going to be turning towards? Keeping our Americans safe here at home and domestic? I don't think so. We have massive immigration numbers. You have well over 100 terrorists apprehended at the U.S.-Mexico border, meaning there's more that actually entered in the United States that we know nothing about. That comes out from Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS secretary himself. What are you going to look at? Us going to the grocery store, how he's helping us at the gas pump as well. You got China wanting to invade Taiwan within the next year or so. You have Russia, Ukraine. You got the Saudis making fun of Biden behind his back. Biden can't even read from a teleprompter, let alone do an interview with MSNBC. So you got a litany of other things, but they're going to focus here on Republicans because we're the extremists. We're the ones that are screwing up everything, even though the Democrats hold all three branches of government and have done so for 3 years. But somehow we're the bad guys. Somehow we're screwing up everything. Go figure. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Doug Mastriano was at the insurrection, and he was photographed breaching one of the restricted areas. Is that okay?
Which area? Because I saw a video where Capitol officers were taking away barriers and unlocking doors for people. So, I mean,
they opened the gates.
So
and
it
let them
shouldn't
in.
be disqualifying for an elected official if they
No, as long as he
participated in
didn't-
January
he
6th?
He didn't strike anybody. He didn't hurt anybody.
And the only one that died was a protester there, not a Capitol
An
police
unarmed
officer.
female veteran was
That's
shot
the
by
only one that
police.
died.
That's the only one who died.
A police officer did die.
No.
This is what they do, and I love this. It just shows you how aware Trump supporters are of what actually goes on in the manipulation of the data and just the false fake news that they peddle, is because you have this reporter here saying that, well, an officer did die. And that's what they do. They leave it as a blank statement. They don't say where he died, how he died. And you also have members of Congress, I believe it was the House of Representatives, stating that a police officer died during January 6th events, which he didn't. That came out and was debunked like a day later. Even the medical examiner came out and debunked that and stated how he died. But they're going to continue to peddle and push this stuff because some of the American public doesn't want to do the research behind it and actually figure out what really took place. You did not have a Capitol Police officer die at the event. He died for other causes. And I believe it was a stroke or a heart attack that took place after the event. I think it was like a day later. But she's going to continue to try to push this stuff, leaving a blank statement, and they're catching her in it.
Heart attack.
Stroke.
That's
not on site.
Caused by that. That's because
Right.
he shouldn't have been a police officer. It was one woman.
So
who was
what do
shot.
you make, though, overall of January 6th? I mean, it was, watching that footage, it was pretty disturbing. I mean, there were people throwing excrement at the walls, and it was it's the Capitol.
It looked a lot like Antifa's
Yeah,
actions
it looked
to
a
me.
lot, except on a much smaller scale. It looked the same as the Black Lives Matter riots.
That's what I saw, the
Every single
similarities
city
to
around
me.
the country, not
Minneapolis
just one.
burns. Kenosha burns.
But so it's okay
Waukesha
just because
burns.
one side that you
No,
disagree with?
I'm
it's
saying
okay
Antifa
for-
No, I'm saying
infiltrated.
it's good for one, it's good for the other.
Anybody
I don't
who
see it
harms
that way.
anybody.
I don't see it as if it's good for one, it's good for the other. I don't see it that way at all. I see it as you got two sides that are both idiotic, for doing what they did. The January 6th rioters were idiots. Now, if you want to be outside the Capitol and protest peacefully, which is literally what Trump said to do, that's fine. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you want to go protest peacefully, that's fine. You're an idiot if you think it was a good idea to storm in the January 6th event, storm into the Capitol and do what you did. You're an idiot. I would even classify you as a conservative or Republican because you don't hold on to those values that we carry as a party. Furthermore, what they have a point here. What Antifa did in Black Lives Matter, burning down cities all across the United States, causing $2 billion worth of damages compared to the 1.5 million that was caused on the Capitol, it's just not anywhere close. You're looking at 1,000th of a percent, 0.00075 if we want to sit there and do some rounding and some kind of squiggling of some numbers here really fast. Don't quote me on that. The number might be a little bit off. I just did it in my head. But folks, this is nuts here that the media are still peddling this stuff, but luckily I have some people here that are not going to sit there and deal with these falsehoods, this fake news that's coming from the media.
Anybody who caused property destruction, that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah,
but if you're there making
side.
your voice heard at the people's house, no less, that's, again, it's a fundamental constitutional right of an American citizen, and people should not be being held political prisoner because of it.
For misdemeanors. That's East Germany.
That's East Germany.
Tactics.
Yeah, that's what's scary.
It was an actual fiery but mostly peaceful protest. And the other ones that were the opposite.
Was the protest legitimate in your eyes?
Administration,
because
I feel like, is using it as their Reichstag fire.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're using it as.
I don't know if you heard that lady, but she mentioned fiery but mostly peaceful, and I believe it was either CNN or MSNBC reporter that said, oh, well, it's mostly peaceful events taking place as there's freaking buildings on fire behind them. And this is what the news media does. They will sit there and kind of throw these blanket statements out there. Capitol police officer died. Well, where'd he die at? How'd he die? Was it actually contributed to the Capitol 6 riots? It was debunked, but they don't want to bring up any of that. So why are you even asking in the first place, of which you should know the answer as a reporter of what took place way back when? But they're pushing this because the whole agenda right now between the media and the White House and the Biden administration is to make it seem like Trump supporters are extremists, that Trump supporters, these ultra MAGA, are a problem to democracy. We're a threat to democracy, if we were to quote Joe Biden, that we're sitting here going and underskirting what our Constitution and our foundation of our country was built upon, which is an amazing statement to make and an amazing thing to actually think of. Because it's all of us, conservatives, Republicans, that want smaller government, that hold to the traditions that were founded by the founding fathers themselves. But the Democrat Party actually wants to remove all those things and underskirt those things. They say it themselves. I mean, hell, we've done videos of it saying they want to burn down the system. How many people, and you've all seen this and wrote this in the comments yourselves, that how many videos have we seen where literally they say America's racist, America's evil, blah, 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 America this, America that, capitalism is bad, socialism good, communism, hey, it's not that bad, maybe we should institute it. I mean, the things that they want to push and peddle is absolutely just asinine. And they have the cojones to sit there and say it's fiery but mostly peaceful as cities are burning all around them, causing $2 billion of damages. There wasn't even a fire at the Capitol. The Capitol, yeah, had $1.5 million in damages, but hell, you're talking about the Capitol, a pretty expensive building. And government, we all know, surcharges everything, ups the charge on fixing anything that has to do with anything governmental. So this whole thing is just a bunch of silly, it's a bunch of hocus pocus, a bunch of smears towards the Trump administration. And if you recall, Trump did say that it was a mostly peaceful protest. This interview does continue. Let's go ahead and roll it.
do you think that President Trump could have quelled the violence that day?
Not him personally.
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so.
It started while he was still speaking. I was actually there. I was there to see what I thought was going to be the last time I ever saw Trump. Little did I know.
So did he tell everybody to go and start rioting?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, and it actually, I stayed for the whole speech, like a ton of people did.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all headed to the Capitol because he said, let's go to the Capitol and peacefully let our voices be heard. And we get to the Capitol and we're like, what the hell's going on? Because it had already happened.
I'm pretty sure I saw Democratic operatives instigating people to cross barriers.
You were there that day.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I mean, why would he tell people to do that? Why did the people who did that not wait around for him to tell them to do that? He said that around the end of his speech, if I remember correctly. It happened before he even said that, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So she's talking about the time frame of which they actually did what they did. And It doesn't even matter. Trump said to do it peacefully. People are going to do what they want to do. There's a lot of idiot people on both sides of the aisle that do asinine things, that do things just because they put some concoction in their mind, like, oh, we should do this. This is a good idea. Trump said to do it peacefully. They didn't do it peacefully. But you have this media, you have the Democrat Party blaming Trump for everything. Well, he didn't come out and speak quick enough. He didn't come out and do this. He was doing that. Why don't you blame the people that were actually involved in it, of which they should be in trouble for damaging property, doing something they shouldn't be doing? How about we talk about that, but you're going to continually blame Trump because you have some sort of Trump derangement syndrome and you can't keep the guy out of your mouth, even though you just spent 4 years plus going after the guy, lawsuit after lawsuit, wanting to censor him, saying that we don't want to elect this guy again, we want him out of our lives, but yet you can't keep him out of your mouth. It's constant while Joe Biden's been in office to blame Trump, blame Republicans, blame conservatives. All the while, Democrats hold all 3 branches of government, don't want to do a damn thing other than destroy this country, increase inflation, have terrible foreign policy, can't hold our borders, can't take care of American citizens, would rather take care of illegal immigrants before our vets. I mean, it's a litany of things. They can't get their head on right, so that's why they're about to get shellacked at the midterms, folks. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button because we are moving into our last story of the day, folks, and this one is a doozy. We have Senator Ted Cruz on The View completely destroying them. Now, a part of this is going to kind of piss you off because it's so frustrating, the tactics of these women. It's so frustrating, the things that they do. But Ted Cruz, if you have not read one of his books, I believe one of them is Ted Cruz called One Vote Away, about Supreme Court cases that were literally 1 vote away from passing, and it is amazing that it didn't get through. And it's thank God some of them did not go through. So that's Ted Cruz. He is on here promoting his new book, but let's just go ahead and roll this one, folks. This is crazy.
Your responsibility was to the Constitution and democracy, not to Donald Trump, but it seems to me we disagree.
I agree, and let me be very clear. I think that the Democrats had been undermining the Constitution and undermining democracy, and that the book that is coming out tomorrow is on exactly that topic, how the Department of Justice and the FBI have been turned into partisan weapons to attack the political opponents of the Biden
administration. But your guy that you're supporting gave no respect to the Justice Department, gave no respect to how it's supposed to work. He doesn't recognize a subpoena. We got to fight to get people to come and do something. Well, you're talking about we corrupted it. You guys don't pay any attention to it.
Well, that's a great talking point.
I don't do talking points. Okay. This is just how I feel.
But it happens not to be true.
Well, nobody cares how you feel. We care about facts, not just your feelings. We care about logic rather than your feelings. We care about reason rather than your feelings, Whoopi. But it's an amazing statement to say because even if you look back when Jason Chaffetz was the chairman of the Judiciary Oversight Committee, there was countless Democrats under the Obama administration that wouldn't show up when subpoenas were there. I mean, you could literally find video after video of Jason Chaffetz hounding people because they had to be dragged in after not showing up to their subpoenas left and right. You had Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the Obama administration, dodge subpoenas. So don't give me this whole thing of like, oh, well, Trump doesn't respect the judiciary. Trump doesn't respect this. He doesn't show up for subpoenas. It's a bunch of hocus pocus, folks. It's a bunch of BS. But hey, it's all about our feelings rather than logic.
Oh, honey.
So if you look at, you guys at the beginning of the show had this long discussion about, is Donald Trump going to testify under oath? Of course he's not. Nobody thinks he is. And by the way, did Barack Obama testify under oath? No.
He never defied a congressional subpoena.
But you know who did? You know who did? Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, was held in contempt and tried to cover up the malfeasance of the Department of Justice. He refused to show up for the subpoena. He was held in contempt
Donald
of
Trump
Congress
the Department of Justice.
Give me one example.
Bill Barr. Real quick.
Okay, you said a name.
Let me get a chance to get it.
Okay, weaponize. Give me the target that was persecuted, because I can tell you who the Democrats.
I want to pause it there. You notice how she just sunk right into her seat because Democrats, and we talked about this in the second segment, is that they say these blanket statements. The news media does it. The progressive left does it. The Democrat Party does it. For example, say, there's racism out there. Who are the racists? Oh, I don't know. Okay. Well, you say there's institutional racism out there. Who are the institutions? I don't know. Who's in those institutions that's racist? I don't know. Okay, so there's no racism out there. No, there's racism out there. Perfect. Name one. She names a person and she can't go anything further than that. She doesn't have anything prepared. She doesn't know what the guy did. She can't label him anything. But this is what they do, folks. The second you just go down the ladder with them, they can't do anything about it. It's just a phenomenal debate tactic of just calling them out for these blanket statements. Black Lives Matter. Yes. What about Black Lives Matter do you want to zoom in on here? Maybe the nuclear family of them wanting to destroy it. Maybe the way they spent $90 million buying mansions and donating to all these trans activist organizations that Candace Owens called out. So you can actually go down with the factual knowledge of what we know from their IRS statements on how they spent their money, where it went. And by the way, a lot of this stuff is just really odd. A lot of this money just kind of disappeared. So you could bring that up. But, you know, again, when you get into the details, it all just evaporates with the Democrat Party. Let's roll it.
Democrats, Merrick Garland directed the FBI to go after moms and dads who go to school boards and to treat them as domestic terrorists using the Patriot Act. That is fundamentally wrong. And it is.
You write about that in your book. But
yes,
let me get it.
Writes about it in his book. Perfect. Furthermore, I want to support Ted Cruz here because under the Obama administration, if you recall, the IRS literally went after conservatives, name brand conservatives. They had lists and everything. And the Obama administration was like, we didn't know anything about this. It turns out there's freaking emails up the wazoo about all this stuff. Eric Holder knew about it, but they want to push this whole thing about Trump, not respecting the Justice Department, not showing up for subpoenas, even though we talked about Eric Holder not showing up. We talked about countless Democrats under the Biden administration when you had the Benghazi, when you had all these other things taking place with the Fast and Furious case. Hell, with the IRS issue, not showing up for subpoenas. We talked about Jason Chaffetz. You also had Trey Gowdy on the podium there for some time, not showing up to subpoenas, but they're going to push all this stuff because their audience don't have a clue what they're talking about, what's going on. They're just there to clap with the applause thing that shows up for them clapping, rather than really know what's going on.
A chance to get in, Senator, but thank you for being here. Back in 2016, when it was you and Donald Trump were the last candidates in the Republican nomination, I remember working with my bosses on Capitol Hill, members of the Freedom Caucus, begging them to endorse you because I thought you were the true conservative who could defeat that man.
Thank you.
He won. I ended up going on to work for him. I've made my peace with those decisions. But January 6th is something I have a really hard time moving beyond from. And I say that as a constitutional conservative, which is what you pride yourself in being. How can you be okay with the undemocratic action of trying to disenfranchise 80 million voters? And do you believe Biden legitimately won the election?
So what I'd say is a couple of things. Number one, in this book, I have an entire chapter on January 6th, that if you want to know the inside story of what happened, listen, I recognize a lot of the folks who may be here or watch this show are not politically on my side of the aisle. That's fine. I'm glad we're having conversations. I'm glad we're actually talking to each other. America, there's so much screaming and yelling and hatred that if this country is going to make it through, we got to actually try to understand each other and hear what the other is saying. So I would encourage you, especially if you don't happen to agree with my view of politics, read the chapter on January 6th on the inside.
Election.
I read it as somebody.
Really good question.
I did. I read the
sure.
chapter and as someone who agreed with you most of your career. How do you reconcile your constitutional convictions with what happened on January 6th and trying to overturn the election when 60 court cases got knocked down?
Yeah.
Lady, by the way, she's clearly an anti-Trumper. So she claims that she's a Republican and a constitutional conservative and all these things, but she calls Trump that man. And now I went to work with him and I had to quash that with myself and all these other things. Okay, lady, whatever. If you notice, it's just like she really thinks that those people storming the Capitol were trying to undermine the election. I'm not saying that that wasn't their agenda, but she really thinks that they're doing this whole coup thing, storming the Capitol, that they're going to take over the United States government, flip and overturn the election. Come on. Okay. You don't think that's a little out there? I don't agree with January 6th. I don't like it. Again, I can only emphasize these people are idiots. Okay, I'm not just talking about the people in the View. I'm actually talking about the people that stormed the Capitol on January 6th are a bunch of idiots. They shouldn't have done it. I don't agree with it. They deserve everything they got going for them. But for you to really sit there and think that this is going to sit there and change the election, that would have instituted Donald Trump as president of the United States, I mean, you got to be really far out there, folks. But hey, there's some people that are. Let's go ahead and roll it.
You just finally was Biden legitimately
did.
elected? Because half the party thinks that he wasn't, and it'd be very powerful for you to tell the truth.
So listen.
That's a manipulation there. I know I keep pausing it, but heck, that's what we do here. Give commentary here on the Bald Brad Show. If you do want to follow it, I'll try to leave this whole video here so you don't have to hear my commentary, but I figure that's why you're here. It's amazing that they think, and they're lumping in, well, the half the party thinks that Joe Biden wasn't legitimately elected. That's a misconstrued, and when you give those polls, it depends on the person and how you're questioning that to conservatives or Republicans, because was he elected president? Absolutely. But there was things that took place during the election that we don't agree with, that it wasn't a fair and free election. You literally had dead people voting. You had people that literally had properties that never actually existed that you can literally go find the registry yourself and go to the property that doesn't exist. It's just out there, out in the desert, and somehow they voted. How can you vote from a registered address of which doesn't actually exist? Some of these addresses were literally on a freeway. They were literally in empty parking lots, like nothing around as far as the eye can see. But they're going to sit here and say that, yeah, oh, it's legitimate, it was fair and free, that there's no issues. So when we say that, they automatically say, oh, well, Joe Biden, he won the election fair and square. He didn't win the election fair and square. And he probably wouldn't have won the election if you never extended the freaking election day to election week. Can we talk about that one? I mean, there are so many things that is wrong with the election, but I got to be careful here, folks, because I don't want to be removed off YouTube, censored, and banned by the progressive left because I say something they don't like.
Biden is the president today. There's a lot of folks in the media that anytime... Hold on. I'm answering exactly that question. Okay. There are a lot of folks in the media that try to, anytime a Republican is in front of a TV camera, try to say the election was fair and square and legitimate. You know who y'all don't do that to? You don't do it to Hillary Clinton, who stood up and said Trump stole the election.
They didn't storm the Capitol. They didn't try to kill my former
Abrams, who said that the election was stolen. They sat here and said it was illegitimate, and you guys were fine with it. Okay, so it's illegitimate when Republicans win, but not when Democrats.
No, you know, here's the thing. We may not like when Republicans win, but we don't go and we don't storm. We don't try to change the... We'll go to court. We don't do that.
Did I miss an entire year of Antifa riots where cities across this country were burning and police cars were being firebombed?
I guess you did.
Your position is the left doesn't engage in violence? Really?
No, they wanted to noose our friend Mike Pence. Like, how do we make sense of that?
You just accused us of doing something we didn't do. You said Hillary Clinton didn't say whatever she didn't say. I'm saying to you, listen.
And she said it's sitting here, and you were fine with her saying it was illegitimate for Republicans to win.
She called Donald Trump the next morning, and she conceded the election, Ted.
Okay,
took the call.
As did Stacey Abrams.
All right.
She sat there while Donald Trump was getting sworn in.
Hillary Clinton says Trump is an illegitimate president. Hillary Clinton says the election is stolen from you. Hillary Clinton in 2002, George W. Bush was selected, not elected. Joe Biden, Al Gore was elected president. So Joe Biden claims George W. Bush is illegitimate.
Right? Or is it just you that...
Oh, here we go, folks. This is what makes you aggravated. Oh, well, you just said we don't scream at each other. So as he's completely destroying this entire panel for their hypocrisy that they've been exposing and just throwing out there to all their viewers that are just sitting there just lushing it in, oh, it's so good, everything they say is true, he's shellacking them right now. And so what are they doing? They go, oh, well, I thought you weren't supposed to yell. I thought we were going to yell at each other. Literally, Whoopi Goldberg, 10 seconds before this, was yelling. They're trying to overtalk one another. So all he's doing is raising his voice because you guys keep interrupting. You keep wanting to chime in and add in rather than listening to the guy that you invited on your show, you brought on your show to hear him speak. You're the one that keeps interjecting. So yeah, he's going to be talking loud, but because they're getting shellacked, this is the tactic they do. And we all know that they do this. Sometimes it's a character argument, meaning they're talking about something they did or something they're wearing, or they're going to name call them or something like this. It's just another tactic to sit there and bring down what he's actually making a point of, and hopefully he doesn't let up here.
Okay, no, I agree.
Okay, then lower your voice because we are very close to each other. And I know you come here to sell a book and try to pick a fight, but we're not going to do that today.
But Anna, then address the... Okay, you look at this January 6th committee, which I think is a kangaroo
1 minute,
circus.
and then I got to go.
The chairman of the January 6th committee objected to a prior presidential election. Representative Raskin, the lead prosecutor for the impeachment, objected to a prior presidential election.
Have you ever heard a room
the absolute hypocrisy?
Democrats say this president, we don't like him, but we're not going to do our job. They did their job.
As the book described,
we have to go.
The Department of Justice went after Trump.
Thanks for Senator Cruz. His new book is Justice.
Let's go buy this man's book, all right? He is a phenomenal writer, and actually over the years, I've come to really like Ted Cruz, and if he were to run again and actually the nomination, it's a shoo-in vote for me. This guy is crazy smart. Read his book, One Vote Away, but also let's pick up how the left weaponized our legal system. You're going to learn a ton from this man, folks. He destroys The View. They don't like it, so now they're going to cut him off because he shellacked all of them. If you enjoy The Bald Brad Show, support us by hitting that like and subscribe button. And folks, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Bald Brad Show.